Hey guys, what's going on? Rounded Tic Tac here, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the build of the video yesterday. As I said in the video, I was just going to show it to you real quick, but here I'm going to actually explain what we're using, why it works, and why you might want to try it, or at least get your hands on it. On top of that, this won't be a long preamble at all. Devastator kind of keeps up with most classes. Maybe you'll lose a minute here and there, but once you get the maps down pretty well, you can do some serious damage. His amount of AoE clear is almost unrivaled because nobody runs AoE clear. Having him in your team is quite helpful. But with that out of the way, if you guys like this content, gears, guides, and gameplay, think about subscribing. It really does help out the channel. And if you guys want to come over to my Twitch, twitch.tv/roundedtictac, we stream 4 days a week. And if you don't come by, you're missing content like this. Before we get into this, can I just ask you guys a question? How the hell does Technomancer, I get it, he has a freeze, and then the Pyromancer has the second freeze as Ash, and how are we a Devastator and we don't have a stone ability that freezes the target? I don't know, just something I thought of last night and I wanted to pose the question to you guys. As you know, Devastator can keep up with the endgame. You just need actual gear to be able to do so. That gear is shown here. We're going to go over it and I'm going to explain everything I possibly can very easily so you guys can understand what you're looking for and what you might want to grab. This build isn't perfect. We're missing the helm and then we would replace the boots. Once we do that, we will probably gain somewhere between 40 to 50 million more XP. And lastly, before we really break this down, there is another build I am experimenting with where we just cleared Boomtown on gold on challenge tier 15, which is blazing fast. And we just did Chem Plant in 8 minutes and 40 seconds, 39 seconds. That build isn't completely done yet. I'm still tweaking some things, need some better gear, but I told you I would put this video out today, so here we are. The first thing you're going to be looking for, there's two things. Let's talk about the guns. We are currently using the Thunderbird. Ultimate Storm Whip is probably the highest DPS tier 3 perk in the game. It only comes on the Thunderbird and the whatever. However, this is a submachine gun and it's a burst variety submachine gun. It doesn't really feel that great to use, but if you do get this, you can always take the mod off and add it somewhere else. The reason we're using this is when we do run out of abilities and we're on cooldown, it allows us to do extra damage with the Ultimate Storm Whip ability so we can keep up in gun damage, because otherwise our DPS with our gun is literally pitiful. The next thing we're talking about is Fortress. This comes on Death Shield. You're going to take it off of Death Shield. You're not actually going to use the shotgun, although it may work for you. It's just not what I was using. And we put it on our Thunderbird. That 43% damage bonus is for everything based on your armor. So it does your bleed damage, your ability damage, your gun damage. All of that receives a buff from this mod. It is probably hands down the best mod in the game for a Devastator, because almost all of his trees allowed him to get extra bonus armor from something. So definitely try to get this. I know it's just RNG, but look for this weapon, the Death Shield and the Thunderbird, and your DPS will probably double. The next thing we're going to talk about, as I was using yesterday, is the Heir to the Desert. The reason we're using this is because we put Sandstorm and Death Chains on it. You don't need to use Death Chains. There are other damage over time mods, but the reason I was doing this was for a simple reason. I use my secondary weapon when I'm running into a fight, when I have a second to reload or something along those lines. I take one shot and it doesn't matter if the bullet crits or anything. All it has to do is hit them and they receive almost 500,000 damage over 5 seconds. It does add up really quickly. You do this 3 times and you're at 1.5 million already. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it allows you to kill the targets that run away from you because we have no real ranged damage. So try to get yourself the Heir of the Desert. You can put Death Chains on it. There's other ones. There's the Funeral Pyro, which works pretty well too. If you don't have either one of these weapons, try to get the Juggler. It should be in the store for you right now. And this is a pretty damn good gun to start with. This is what got me all the way up to tier 13. It scales off your bonus damage, so 226 really hits for like 400,000. And it can do a decent amount of damage. Scrap Grenade is a fantastic mod. So those are the guns and the reason we're using them. Now let's take a look at your armor. There are 3 white passive perks. The white passive perks are the 3 white perks you see here. This one has bonus fire, skills life leech, and cooldown reduction. This isn't perfectly rolled. What you're looking for on almost all of your pieces, unless it's legendary, is anomaly power, status power, and cooldown reduction. If you can't get those, the other 2 you want are long range damage or close range damage. Lastly, you're looking for health leech, and bonus firepower is probably the absolute last one you want. I just cannot get a decently rolled helmet to drop for me, but I can't complain because it looks pretty cool. And the 2 perks we put on here are Blood Shock. This is the bread and butter of your build. It is what you use for the majority of your damage. The cooldown on this is ridiculously short. I'll show you with all the bonus cooldown reduction we have from the white passive perks. Our cooldown on Earthquake is about 6.7 seconds. Again, we're going to have Earth's Legacy. This is mandatory. I know it doesn't seem mandatory, but because we have no range, this allows us to kill things from a ridiculously far away point. This, I didn't think it was mandatory. It 100% is if you want to stay alive, because the only sustain we have is from our bleeds. The next, we're going to talk about the Seismic Commander's armor. This comes with anomaly power, status power, cooldown reduction, exactly what we're looking for, and it comes with Palisade. Impale, the skill can strike 2 additional targets. Rivers of Blood, you can take this one off if you want. I've been experimenting, but we do bonus damage by 50% if an enemy has a bleed on them. They're always bleeding, so you're always getting that bonus damage. Next, we have the Seismic Commander's leg armor. We have anomaly, status, and cooldown. Again, perfect rolls. The armor could be higher here, but it hasn't dropped for me on a higher roll. Tainted Blood is the best bleed modifier in the game, giving all of your damage a 25% increase as long as they are bleeding, and like we said, they're always bleeding. Here we have Sharpened Spike, allowing us to hit ridiculous numbers with our Impale. I've seen up to 2.4 million in a full party with debuffs and stuff, but on average, you're looking at anywhere between 600 to 800,000 damage per Sharpened Spike if they're below that 20% threshold, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Next, we have my gloves, anomaly power, status power, cooldown reduction again, and we have Ground Crush, increase the base damage by 84,000 and extra quake. This skill can be activated 1 more time, so we have 2 triggers of our Earthquake with gloves like this. The last one that I do have that you need for this build, but are eventually going to replace once you get the Seismic Commander's helmet, is the Seismic Commander's foot gear. The rolls on this aren't fantastic. Max health, status power, skills, life leech. They're okay. They're like all secondary mods except for status power that we're really looking for, but you need the second perk. Second Quake, this skill can be activated 1 more time. Since it has a different name, it stacks with the other one, giving us 3 triggers of Earthquake. With a build like this, by the time your 2nd and 3rd Earthquake go out, they will be hitting for 330 to 400,000 damage every 6 seconds. So you can do that every 6 seconds and you hit 1.2 million with 3 Earthquakes, plus your Impales. The damage gets serious and you should be able to keep up with most other classes, especially if you're playing in triples or duos, because the enemies are tankier and those bullet buffs don't last nearly as long. It's hard for those classes to keep up infinite ammo when they can't get the killing shots on everything. Next, our skills. We are running Earthquake. For a bread and butter, this is exactly what you need. It can hit super far, does a bleed damage, does good damage. It's a fantastic ability. Our Gravity Leap does small damage, but it's our oh shit button, and it gets you out of a ton of sticky situations. Then Impale is for when you're trying to finish off the enemy. If they have the bleed on them, sub 20% health, this is when this ability really does hit hard. But be warned, do not be afraid to use this on cooldown. You're only going to be able to press that button maybe 20, 30, 40 times, depending on how fast you clear it, compared to something like Earthquake, where I've used it 180 times during a mission. It's quite ridiculous. Regardless, the build is a lot of fun. So this is the skill tree. This is exactly what I was running yesterday, although I have been experimenting with some different builds or supporty kind of builds. This is what you guys saw yesterday, and I would like to break it down fully so you guys know what's going on here. We're only going to do the important nodes. Coming down, we have Endless Tremors, which gives us seismic cooldown for our Impale and our Earthquake ability. This is a must. You need to grab this Anomaly Reservoir. Pure Anomaly, don't sleep on Resistance Piercing. There's not much of it in the game. In fact, there's only 30% from a skill tree, from this skill tree, that you can get, and it's very, very helpful against the beastie enemies and things like that. Next, we have Anomaly Reservoir again. Here, you can grab Anomaly Bullets if you would like to. This isn't necessary, and in fact, you could put it here for a reduced kinetic jump, but it's up to you. This does help with your DPS. Up here, very important to talk about, Stone Circle and Through the Mob. Stone Circle allows enemies to die farther away and helps us sustain. That's all we're really using it for. And Through the Mob increases our armor for every enemy that dies in close range. The reason this is so important because it really scales well with that Fortress mod that we have on our Thunderbird, allowing our Earthquakes to do a lot more damage. Then over here, we have Anomaly Reservoir, Executioner. This is mandatory 100%. Extra damage against 20% health, extra 20% damage below 30% health. This is part of the reason I was able to hit for 2.4 million on an Impale. Anomaly Reservoir, we have here Bloodbath, more bleed damage. Blood Donation, our only form of sustain besides actually killing an enemy. Rejuvenation, we have Protected by the Anomaly, gives us a 40% bonus armor due to our Anomaly power. Again, Fortress mod. This is what we're using this for. And Survivability. Skilled Sentry increases your armor by 20% and resistance by 20% for 10 seconds when your skill ends. That's why you're so tanky all the time, because you have a 6-second cooldown. So this is always up. You always have both of these mods up. There's never a moment where you do not have an extra 20% armor and a 20% resistance. Then we got our last Resistance Piercing, our last blood damage, and then over here is just a base increase of 50% on our Earthquake and our Spike. That is the build. This is what can get you to CT15 once you get the pieces of gear you're looking for. You will be able to do CT14 easily without the full set of Impale stuff. You do not need this set to do CT14, specifically this mod, Second Quake, the tier 3 mod. This is a core component to the build, and if you do not have this, you're going to struggle in CT15. It's doable, I have done it, but just having that extra Earthquake literally shaves off 2 minutes off your completion time. It's a fantastic mod. When you get that, you can push yourself into CT15 solos if you would like to, but before you have that, farm around CT14. It should be pretty easy for you to be able to find the gear at that level. You should be getting golds. The build is fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It's better than just walking around shooting things in the head. I've been watching other gameplay and I'm just like, this looks so boring, but maybe that's just me. Devastator mains, where are you at? Thank you guys so much for watching. That is the bleed build guide, why everything works together. We are working on another build and I want to show it off to you guys, but there's going to be some footage or some other videos in between. Thank you so much. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. This is the exact build, full build breakdown that we were running yesterday on that video. And thank you so much for all that love and support on that video. It's doing fantastic. I'll see you guys on the next one. Tic Tac out.